Seekers, welcome to another episode of the Straight Shooters. My name is Todd Braley.
And I'm Itai Guberman.
The thunder from down under right there, Mr. Itai Guberman.
Still nobody calls me that ever.
Well, but I do.
Yes, you do.
Oh. And with us today, ladies and gentlemen, is the actor, director, or should we say director? He doesn't act anymore. I don't know. Do you?
Retired.
Act? You retired?
I mean, I do. I just don't do it in my own movies.
Gotcha. Okay. So we'll say director, producer, actor, filmmaker, Mr. Chase Dudley has joined us in the Straight Shooters room here. So we're going to be talking to him for the next little while. And just real quick, I'd just like to remind everybody, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe if you would be so kind. And then tell your friends about us. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right in and get started. So
yeah, Chase, you want to give the audience a bit about yourself, a bit about where you started, what you've done so far.
Yeah, I'm interested in that because I've never heard anything about how you got started. I just kind of met you. I met you what?
That's true. Yeah, we just started commenting on each other's posts, and then we just started talking like in Messenger and stuff like that. But no, I've always been fascinated into filmmaking. I've gotten a camcorder when I was 15 years old. My parents got one, and I used to make a whole bunch of homemade movies, unedited because I didn't have no editing software. But we just used to shoot directly on our camera and make the worst movies. And you know, storytelling has always been something that I was very interested in. But back in when I first started, nobody ever wanted to make a movie with me. It was like me trying to get my family members and friends to be in a movie, but no one ever wanted to do it. So I was most of the time making a movie just with myself, like using all kinds of crazy things, but never really gotten anything done. And I gave up on it because I never thought that nothing would ever come out of it. And then when, social media, came about, that's when things really changed. And then I met my beautiful wife in 2010. And she kind of she didn't really get much involved. But around 2014, we produced a movie for the first time, and it was called Peyton's Burton, which I need to get that re-released. I'm kind of still working behind the scenes on that and kind of getting it edited and color graded and stuff like this. When we shot it, pretty much we did it ourselves. But it was an interracial drama that was based off of my high school years. And it deals with racism of my first true love that I dated, and dealing with racism from my friends and family, and then her family, and just how racial tensions sometimes have a huge impact on relationships. And that movie did pretty well. I'm in the news, wanted to do stories on me. It's on the INC channel, I want to say, on a Roku. But I need to get that much out because recently I just re-released my movie Marvelous Mandy, and it's on Tubi, Plex TV, Pluto. It has not came on Prime yet, weirdly enough, but it is doing really, really, really well, and it's getting a lot of positive feedback. And that was my second feature film, and I have a hard time watching that movie because every time I watch any of my movies, I see things that I'm like, I should have cut that, and I can never watch anything that I've done because I'm constantly critiquing and like, I should have cut this scene. How could I not have cut this? What was you thinking? You're not worthy of being a filmmaker.
Yeah, we've all done
that. Never ends.
Yeah. I mean,
Go ahead. You can make the film that you think is your best film, and you still watch it and you go, "Ooh, maybe I should have done this differently.
Why didn't I do that? Maybe I should have done that differently. Maybe I shouldn't have put the microphone where I had it." I'm
why did I have that out now? Crying?
Yep.
Maybe I should re-edit when you're already into your next production.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, Marvel even still, when the movie's released, they still re-edit movies and re-release them. They did that with Thor. They did that with Doctor Strange. They did that with almost all of their movies. They did that with Avengers Endgame. They do that all the time.
Yeah. This always brings up the thing that I mentioned about the Coen brothers. When they were asked something about when do you know you finished editing a movie, and they say when we release it. It's never finished. We just release it when we think it's good enough. That's it. Because you can keep tinkering forever. Yeah,
that's true.
Well, I mean, and if you look back at things like Star Wars and Lucas, it's kind of funny. I've been able to acquire the original theatrical versions of episodes 4, 5, and 6, and having had to watch yeah, I feel the same way, man.
Yeah, you hear my son?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
he wants to be on the show. Look, why isn't anyone interviewing me?
But if you go back,
he's pretty vocal. The last month, he has been making every noise under the sun.
That's cool. For those of you who don't know, Chase is a new dad.
Yes, I'm a new dad, and trying to get
he's an old dad. He's an old dad.
I'm an old dad. I'm an OG. It is definitely a quite a bit of an experience. Like, we went to go see the new Jurassic World Dominion, and the most entertaining part was him sounding like the damn dinosaurs. And he had people in the movie laughing. It was so funny. It was just like he was just going. Like, it was just funny. It was like parts where it was just nothing going on. He would just make that noise, and people were just laughing. So.
I'll wait to read his review.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So with the original Star Wars, you looked at, the stuff that he did, and you go back and you look at the original cuts, and you're looking at him, you're going, oh, I'm glad, I've been able to get the original versions, just because I was never super excited outside of maybe where he fixed some of the dog fights, where you could see when the ships were flying, you could see those squares, from the opacity, not being completely, back then you couldn't get rid of it. But outside of that, that's just my personal preference, but I just was never happy with watching that. But it was Lucas movie, and he's got a lot of money and do whatever the F he wants. So, I've never been a fan of the Star Wars movies, but I do respect his success, considering what I read about him being on the film and only being the one that truly believed in the film, and having his cast and crew like sabotage things, and he spent on set working on like things, and it turned out to be this massive hit, and that changed and revolutionized films. Yeah,
the film has done that for a band.
Yeah, I like the originals. I can't stand any of the new ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, just on I'm not trying to make the whole conversation about Star Wars. It was, to me, it was just about
Star Wars
never being finished. You look at, I've already, Chase and Itai both. I've gone back and just in watching You Like to Draw, I'm looking at it going, I
love that movie.
No, thanks.
That was a great movie. So much to where I watched that film and it reminded me of like indie. What was that Mandy Moore film? It was something like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
I know what he's talking about.
yeah, that to me is what that film was like for me, and it inspired me to want to do something like that. One thing I really admire about you as a filmmaker is you do a lot of things that a lot of people aren't doing, and that's the kind of projects I like to do. Because I love horror movies. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, not only is Hollywood doing a lot of horror, but a lot of indie films is very oversaturated in horror, I think, and I really kudos for someone who's really trying something different when there's not a lot of sites and places to market your film, because when you do a drama or something like that, it's not a lot of places that would pick up your articles and stuff. Like, you have a lot of horror content, but you don't really have a lot of, if you're not doing horror, it's really hard to get your movie out there. So a lot of people tend to play the safe bet, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm not disrespecting no one and when I say that, but it's just it is very much harder to do a movie like you did with You Like to Draw, and then you got it on Tubi and you got it out there, and then you actually put it on billboards and everything, and that is very commendable, because that was a great movie. I was like, man, Todd is great. That's my first film that I really seen of you, and I was like, man, that was really, really good. Deborah Lamb was so good, and like even some of your newer actors, since Deborah was so experienced, they fed so well off of her, and I mean, they were really good.
Yeah, that was a fun project to make. That was definitely a lot of fun. So, looking to do more stuff like that. So, well, just out of curiosity, though, Chase. What made you want to be an actor, and then how did you transition from doing the acting to the directing?
I think it's safe to say when everybody started off in the industry, the only people you really see and know of before you really start realizing there's people behind. I think everybody's first love at first getting in the movie industry was wanting to be an actor. Because I used to memorize the lines and all of that stuff like that. But when I started acting and I realized I'm not an actor. I've seen some really amazing performers. Like on Payday, I worked with Derek Babb. I mean, working with Amber Dawn Fox, working with some really talented Nalia Shukavor, seeing Lynn Lowry act, and just seeing her go from Lynn Lowry to whoever she is playing in a matter of half a beat of a second. I as much as I love acting and have the respect for it, I'm just not that. And I really started realizing that I'm really good at getting people to get what I need out of them. And I directed at first because I kind of had to, because like in order for me to film my movies, somebody had to put it all together of who's doing what and all of that stuff. And then I realized that I like that so much more than I do acting. And it's just funny how when you envision your dream when you're little, and then how it transforms and you end up doing something you never thought you would be. And it's kind of like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was talking about that. So I so much feel a lot more in tune with directing.
And I just have to say, for anybody who wants to see Chase acting, he's in Marvelous Mandy. So you can check that out on Tubi.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that movie. It has a lot of issues, but weirdly enough, people don't care. I don't know why, but a lot of people are like, I know it's low budget, but it was really good. I'm glad that people liked it. Me, I'm just like, ooh, the lighting is not great. But that was a movie I'm very proud of, because how much of a skeleton crew we had to work with, and how little money we had. But some of the locations we managed to land, like doctor offices and the Laughing Derby, using a real place where comics go and do stand-up comedy and stuff like that. That really, really helped in production value. But we really barely had no money for that movie. But I mean, it still holds up pretty well. And when Eddie re-edited and I looking back on it, because I was kind of overseeing Locked In when I wished I would have cut more after re-signing it off, and I see that now. But I'm still proud of that movie, because I mean, we had nothing, and looking at that movie, it actually looked like we had more money than what we actually had, but we didn't have no money.
Well, that's kind of the thing that we always are trying to do is, take what little we got. I mean, Francis Ford Coppola said it best. He says, if somebody gave me $50,000 and I tried to make it look like 50 million, then, you know, that's, you know, how you get, you know, a good quality movie is just taking what little you have and making it work for you, and making it work to the point where, you know, maybe you have multiple locations and you were lucky enough to get people to give it up to you for nothing. So, you know, that's the mistake that I mean, starting out, that if I can really go back and rechange anything, is more like really being smart about locations and realize how much time that takes, and breaking down and setups and all of that stuff like that. And then you find yourself rushing. And I mean, independent filming, it's us against the world. We are fighting trains, we're fighting noise, we're fighting everything. Actors not showing. Yeah, weather, everything. Yeah, I see what you did there. These are the field. I'm very shocked we turned out to end up even having a movie, because I mean, the heavy rains. We didn't really have a lot of time to do double takes, and I ended up running out of time with one of my actresses, Ashley Nunez. We ended up having to scrap that scene. And that scene was so choppy compared to what it was supposed to be. If it was shot the way we wanted it, the scene would have been so much better. But we had to like chop out a big gap into the film. And every time I watch it, I cringe, because I know what it was supposed to be. But I'm glad that it was covered up enough to where no one seemed to notice that a big chunk of that scene had to be cut. But right. So like I definitely learned my lesson from that movie, to make sure that I have all of the actors, everybody there from start to finish. So that way, if I really need to pick up some shots, because it sucked that I ended up having to fly her back and I couldn't get this footage that I want, because we just ran out of time. Yeah, we barely had any time to make that movie. So the fact that it's even done, and then that being my first award-winning movie, it's really hard, because I still feel to this day, and this is not including Locked In, but I really feel that Payday is my best film I watch, and I really feel good about it. And that film, had a lot of issues shooting, because that whole entire film was supposed to take place in one day or one night. And there was scenes where we were dealing with severe weather, and like it poured down raining, and we had to all go out and wipe off the police cars and wipe off the windows to not show that it rained. And even the back of the building that the cops are standing in, somebody paint the State Farm building. Those are the things making a movie, because we shot that movie for 2 weeks, and so much have changed there, and we had to make it to where it didn't look like that. Right.
That's the thing, though. It's like all these films you made previously were all like learning experiences. Some things were within your control, and some things, like with Beast of the Field, were not. You can't control crazy weather, but no. You took all those lessons into Locked In, which was by what I've seen on social media, like a smooth sailing kind of a production.
Oh my God. Locked In was so smooth, it did not feel real. I was waiting to wake up and be like, all right, let's go film a movie. But Sam was, we hired a really good team. Sam, for once, I didn't see her overly stressed. And that was really good, because Payday, she cried like every day because just on how stressed she was. And I hated that, seeing my wife so under stress, because the production just is so stressful, from everything, from the delays to not getting, everything with Payday. It was such a big film, and we did not have enough crew. And we had a lot of interns, and it's, when you only are running on so much money, it's hard to do everything. But Locked In, though, it looks like a studio quality film, and I'm so happy of how good everything looks, and everything sounds good, and the death scenes in there looks really, really good. Like it looks like a B horror film.
You're giving spoilers? I mean,
No, not at all.
Did there are death scenes?
Well,
I think we kind of
pretty
figured
sure
that.
when people watch the trailer and see him finger snaps off, I'm not saying who.
Amber? No, we don't kill Amber. Come on.
No. We're not saying she is. We're not saying she's not. But I mean, Amber, we were so in sync working together on this project, and I can see she was so much more trusting, so much more. I mean, I was just like, Amber, you think you can do this? She's like, yeah. I mean, it was even one.
Are you talking in comparison to Beast of the Field? That she was also in?
Beast of the Field, yes.
Yeah.
Because Beast of the Field, it was the first time we met, and she had to come a week early. I knew a lot was on her mind because she literally had to leave North Carolina a week early because the hurricane was heading her way. So I know in the back of her mind, she was worried about her home. She's worried about her family. She's worried about all kinds of stuff just to deal with a hurricane, end up coming to Kentucky, and then worrying about her lines. And the fact that none of that showed was amazing. But I think since we had a really good working relationship from Beast of the Field and Locked In, it just really amplified that more. And she was such a joy to work with. And Nalia Shukavor, she was, I mean, I never worked with anyone quite like her. She was so, she questioned everything, but I loved it because it kept me on my toes. It made me make sure that I even understand all the motivation. She questioned every bit of thing of what she's doing, why she's doing this. And it kept me on my toes. And I mean, at first I was kind of like, man, she don't trust me, but no, she just wants to make it had to make sense to her. But
of course she doesn't trust you. You can't even pronounce her name yet.
Shukarova? I know.
Shakirova,
her.
Man. Shakirova.
What is it?
Shakirova.
Well, on the Locked In behind the scenes, that's how she pronounced it, was Shukavora.
It's not Shakirova. If it's spelled Shakirova.
I gotta work on that. She has a very last name that's a tongue twister.
Yeah, Russians. I mean, I don't know, but I assume she's from some kind of a Russian background.
Because I even had her send a messenger of how to say it, because that is how she said it. So
check again.
I think I am, because I'm pretty confident in myself. But because if I've been saying it wrong all this time, she's never said anything. And I know Nalia, if I do something wrong, she'd be like, you didn't say that right. She'd let me know about myself.
That is wrong. You make wrong American guess.
But I tell you this, Charlie Brady was really also, I love collaborating with him. He is my
the cinematographer.
Yes, and he's also my screenwriter, and we collaborate so well together. It's to the point where I tell him something, what I want, and he'll kind of ponder on it and then send me something, and it's 10 times more than what I was asking for. And our story that we just got through writing together, we're on our third draft. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Oh my God, that is going to be such a fantastic story. It's so there's so many layers to this story. I don't think Locked In has a lot of layers because it deals with such a very important subject of human trafficking. But, of course, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, it deals with a lot of trauma and mental health and sexual abuse this is more like women who endure it from a family member, so to speak. And this is a very common thing that no one talks about. And this movie deals with that in a way where I really think I've never quite read something like this. And I really feel good that we would be able to get it on Lifetime.
Well, it kind of came out of nowhere because you had a couple of other projects that you were kind of flip-flopping, and then all of a sudden this one...
I saw that one. I'm like, where in the did that come from?
Yeah, and honestly, Itai, you know me long enough to know I do those things. And sometimes this projects,
I know
a lot
it
longer.
Happens.
Well,
but what happened with that one? How did it all of a sudden get into the picture?
Honestly, because Todd and I talked to you guys about this project last year of what I wanted to do. and it's just, and then I know you was like, well, send me something. And I never gotten around to it. And I forgot that Charlie, I thought when he helped out with Locked In, because Paul McFall is the original screenwriter, and he did he did a really good job with the basis of the story, but it just needed a lot of work. And Charlie, I'm so glad he went to school and taught screenplay. And he really reinvented that script and rebuilt it from head to toe. But it was so much more stronger and Locked In. I think it's such more of an amazing film. No disrespect to Paul McFall, but I mean, Hollywood has all kinds of writers. I mean, sometimes it's just really good somebody to have a different brain to look over things, and I know it probably sounded weird.
No, but it's like basically like doing additional drafts.
Additional drafts, and that's something I've been doing more.
Yeah, I think that's a problem with a lot of indie stuff, that they just take a script that has, like a first or second draft, and they take it straight to production without getting it seen by, let's call it professional script writers. But you had a similar situation, not exactly, but kind of with Beast of the Field. It was reworked by Gregory Blair.
And every script I have, I send to Gregory Blair, because Gregory, I love his brutal honesty, but he's really professional about it. But he's cut and dry. He'll tell you the truth. And another thing with Charlie, I told him what I really wanted to do, and I'm like, man, I can't find no one to write it for me. And he was like, well, you do know I write. Like I was like, I was under the impression you don't like writing. He's like, no, I love writing. He's like, I love DP and more, but he's like, I write all the time. And I was like, really? So we just talked, and within like me telling him what I wanted, a week later, and I kid you not, a week later, I had the script in my hand and I read it, and it was so good. I was like, the desperate has to wait. I'm desperate for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, because this project I've been passionate about for years. And I just loved all of the fine details that he put together. I couldn't just sit on this project. And it just like my intuition was like, this has to be now. And after I made that decision, everything is just coming together so much with this film. And it's like, sometimes I will be working on a project, and it's just like, some projects I'm working on is not building as quick as others. And that happens all the time. It's just so weird. Like, I was working on Beast of the Field originally in 2016. I even had Gregory originally cast as 40, and I had, but nothing was coming about. Like, I couldn't find the location. I couldn't find where to shoot it. And I put that on hold. I ended up filming Payday. And then I went back to Beast. It's just, everything happens for a reason. But I feel like, I guess the more projects I make, and I'm pretty sure you can relate to this, and you can, Todd, too, is that each project you get a better intuition about things. And I just think right now, what's going on with a lot of what's going on with women and their rights, and the state of mind that women are in right now, I think this film would be very therapeutic, because it's a very passionate conversation. Because I'd known a girl, I was like 11 years old and she was 14, and she was being sexually abused by her dad. And 11 years old, I was old enough to know what that meant, but I didn't really know what that meant. But she was afraid of me leaving her for me. I gotta go. I gotta go home. My curfew's at like 10, and she's like, please don't leave me. And she's terrified. And then I think about that all the time, because I don't know where she is or how she's doing, but that memory really stands with me. And it continues, like seeing stuff like the way I see, and it just continues to remind me. And I'm like, I really need to do something about this.
Yeah.
It's as good a motivation as any to tell a story.
Yeah, exactly.
But Locked In, though, I tell you, I love that project so much. I mean, Robert Mukes, super, super chill guy, but he is so creepy in this movie. And Robert already kind of have like almost a sinister approach with him. He's a very low sounding guy, but his voice is like Mufasa.
And also, his physical presence is a massive guy.
I mean, it's not even a physical presence to me, but it's his voice. Like
how tall is he?
He's 6'10".
Jesus.
And but, I mean
he's huge guy, huge.
I didn't realize he was that tall.
No,
he should be. He should have been playing Michael Myers, that kind of thing. He's a massive guy.
I agree, but like he's so like low sounding, and he sounds a lot like Josh Brolin. Every time I hear Robert Meeks talk, I'm hearing Thanos. Chase, I was thinking about this scene, brother, and I'm like, dude, you sound like Thanos. I cannot take you. But
stop it, Robert. You're making me.
He was so if he whispers in a girl's ear, it's over. But,
sorry, that was just.
It is funny because
joke like, pops into my head. I got to spit it out.
Right. But now, like Ember Dawn Fox, she's like every bit of what Ember's like really short. She's like 5'2", maybe. Yeah, she's like 5'2". She's very short. She has to tiptoe in 5 foot pool. And so, like seeing how tall he is and how short she is, it was so funny. And like naturally, that intimidated her a lot too. Natalie is taller. She's about what? I think she's like 5'5", 5'6", something like that. Her and Ember worked so well off each other, and I was worried about that because they never met each other, but they had really great chemistry. In this film, it really has heart to it, but it also has that hostile / Saul, the collector feel. And I really think, I think it would be a combination of the two. Because Saul was more of those movies, you didn't care about what was happening to him. You thought it was cool, because that was the point. But this film is different. It really has like a nice dynamic of these two girls, and you really get to know them, and they become friends because they each other have. So you're really definitely rooting for them, and you're hoping that they both make it out alive. And just the things we were able to shoot, and just seeing Charlie's top-notch DP skills. I mean, he is easily it's not no disrespect to anybody I worked with before, but he was just probably the best DP to give me what I wanted. I never really had to tell him twice with anything. He knew what I wanted, and he did everything to make sure I got that. And I think everybody's going to see that when they see this movie. His cinematography is definitely a whole nother level. And I hate saying stuff like that publicly because I don't want people to take it like I'm being unappreciative, but it's just true.
But it's one of those things. It's like you're striving to get better, and to be able to say that, anybody that was behind, 2-3 projects behind has got to look at it from the perspective of, he's upped his game, that, and again, you're not disrespecting it. If they get butthurt from it, then that's on them. But to me, it's like when we shot the Chip, and I think
I love that plot, by the way.
How the Chip looks. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. How the Chip looks compared to how you like to draw looks. I mean, the Chip is all black and white, so it's.
I love that.
So it was, planning that out with my kid, with my son, which was just an awesome time to be able to work.
I think that was like the love letter thing with that was that I can only imagine you doing something you're super passionate about, but also having your son that you raise grow up and being a part of that too, and doing it really, really good. Cause he did damn good with that.
Well,
and I loved like your take on filmmaking. I can tell from watching your work, I can tell which generation you were definitely most fond of.
Well, I mean, I grew up with, Friedkin and old school Spielberg. I haven't liked anything he's done for quite a while, but
I love Ready Player One. I felt it was so underrated.
It's just, I think he, in my book, he just kind of is too set on using too much. After Jurassic Park, everything was about CG. So, but outside of that, you know, growing up
Saving
on
Private Ryan.
Well, yeah, but
That's a good movie.
That's an amazing movie, and
Dude, that's my top.
But it's not, you know, it's not what he's done before then. You know, I mean, I'll watch Close Encounters 6 or 8 times before I'll watch Saving Private Ryan again, and not.
Yep. Agreed.
And not a slap on that. Saving Private Ryan is an amazing movie, but I'd rather his old school stuff. Just to me, is
I mean, I see what you're saying,
to not depend on cut. You know, to be able to stay on a shot and stay on a scene, you know, for a little bit longer. I mean, that's how I learned in that. And
I see what you're saying, but I guess for me, looking at this man making movies for over 50 years. And still seeing that he's doing something different, I gotta really to him.
Is he?
He's been making movies for almost 50 years.
Yeah, but is he doing something different?
Well, I feel like he is. I mean, he did the Post, and then he turned around and did Ready Player One. He's done Minority Report. He's done Lincoln. He's done
different things. Yeah, but he's not doing anything different to what's been done before.
Saying. Like. Whether they really good or whatever, I just applaud him for trying something different because, you know, like I love Scorsese, and this is not an attack, but I mean, most of his movies are mafia films. I mean, you know, it's kind of like his theme. Like, but Spielberg has done. He got so many different types of movies.
That's what he got good at, though. But if you look at something like Age of Innocence, if you've ever watched that, Scorsese did that. You know, I mean.
He's done movies that, like, I mean, Wolf of Wall Street was one of my favorites that he's done. But yeah, I'm saying, like, generally speaking, most of those films are kind of like the same that he's done. But what I'm saying with Spielberg, I mean, he has so many different films, and I had to do a double take. Like, I was like, I didn't even know he did A Color Purple. You know, like,
and see, that's insane. That next to Jaws, that's my favorite. That fights for number one. In my book is
Jaws, with me it's that and 3rd Encounters for me.
Close Encounters.
Close Encounters.
Third count, yeah. Sorry.
My top 3: Jurassic Park, Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List.
Yeah, Schindler's List is in my top 20, but yeah,
my top 20 Spielberg films.
Uh-oh. I smell another episode.
Look. Spielberg is a master technician. He is one of the best ever at the technical part of filmmaking. The problem is he's very good at it, and I think he relies on it too much. And he has no trust and no. He gives no credit, I think, to his viewers. I think he tells you what to think, what to feel, when to feel, you know, and a lot of it is soundtrack and editing. And it's just so beating you on the, you know, for me, it's like I'm getting hit in the face with, feel this, look at this, look at this. I'm like, I can look by myself, you know, I can feel by myself. I don't need the director's hand to come in, you know, and tell me what to do when I'm watching a film. I think he gives no credit to his viewers. He acts, you know, he treats them like they're stupid in a way. And not in every film. He's made some films that are very, very close to masterpieces, and he's made some films that, to me, are just not good.
I agree with that. There's quite a few movies that he's made that I do not like.
It's the same with Scorsese, just different reasons. But Scorsese, I think, in a lot of ways, has sort of lost his mojo, and then found it, and then lost it, and then found it.
I feel like Tarantino's lost his mojo. He hasn't quite made a movie I like since Django.
But I have to say, as far as Tarantino's made a lot less films than they have, so it's hard to compare them. To me, Tarantino's not yet made a bad film. He's made films that are not as good as other stuff he's made, but none of them I think are bad. Whereas with the other two, I can find bad ones. But again, they've made so many. So it's different. I mean, you know, Spielberg's made movies since forever, same Scorsese. But, and even some of my favorites, you know, like De Palma, whatever, you watch their films, there's going to be some bad ones in there. They're not always great.
Right.
So
I'm not
a big fan in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what, where and here's Todd trying to move the conversation.
Yeah, we're called straight shooters for a reason. You know, we say what we actually think.
It was just I could not hold it in. Todd was just
because we have to you know, move the conversation to somewhere
else. So just out of curiosity now, with all of your movies, and something again that I've never had the chance to ask you about is, did you come up with all of the ideas? Because when you go on IMDb, obviously the, you know, you've got different writing credits from different writers. I mean, were they all ideas that
they all came from my pitch. I just never gave myself the credit. And Charlie Brady was the very first person who was like, no, you need to get a story by credit. And I was like, okay. So all of my movies that I directed, if I'm not really attached to the story, and if I gotta really feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, I mean, but you came up with the ideas for all of your movies. So, you know, Peyton's Burton, obviously you talked about that earlier. Marvelous Mandy, Payday, Beast in the Field. So you came up with the ideas, but then you had somebody else.
The concept, yeah.
Right.
I had somebody else. I had the concept, but as far as like dialogue and all of that stuff, that's not me. I can tell you the opening, the middle, and the end of what I want. But like filling in the clue. But Charlie, I love collaborating with him because he will like, sometimes I even be like, you think this is bad? He's like, no, I'm just thinking. And then a day or two later, he'll call me. So I was thinking, and then he'll just give me like this big map. And I'm like, man, you just literally pondered on that. Like, it's crazy how he'll just be so calm. And you don't even almost think that he's listening. But like a day or two later, he comes back with all of this ideas of what he think he can do with it. And that right there is just the satisfying part of working with Charlie. I've been working with him since 2019. And one thing I really love about this guy is that I love his ethic. You know, in this industry, I mean, any industry you shouldn't be, but especially this industry, you cannot be lazy. And I feel like a lot of times people don't want to put in the work, and filmmaking is a lot of work. It's never ending.
In the work. It's
so time consuming work.
So I'm sorry, I wasn't interrupting. Just go ahead, keep going. I was just agreeing with you. It's a lot of work. I mean, like with Sam, the breakdown, just all kinds of stuff, and just the things that filmmakers are supposed to do before you walk on the set, like all the homework, my shot list, my notes. I'm even working on storyboards. I paid a lot of money for it in Payday and never used one frame, but I had it there just in case I needed it. But I mean, it's just so many things I like to talk to, make people get what I'm trying to see in my head. But a lot of times on set, we come up with something better. And, me and Charlie had, shots mapped out on Locked In. But when we got on set, it was just things that we came up with that was so much more efficient and better. And I think that it captured a story even more. I cannot wait for people to see the full trailer for Locked In. I just released a teaser, and yeah. You always want to give. And I remember with You Like to Draw wanting to get that good trailer out that told the story, that didn't just have music and words on the screen, and some of the nicer shots. Whereas,
that's one thing I really do love about Eddie. Being my editor and working with Eddie for so long, that man can really make a trailer. You would think that he worked for a studio of how he can really put together and tell a story. And like ever since he's been cutting my trailers for the last 6 or 7 years, my movies, all of the trailers look really, really good. Eddie's really, really good at that.
Yeah, no, it's funny how, like, you're talking about
right.
how much.
The same thing. That was a very awkward silence.
I was just thinking about what you guys mentioned before, and it's like it really does take a village or an army or whatever
really
to make a film.
And it does, because a lot of times, like, people don't realize that being a director, just because I'm the captain of the ship, I got to listen to my actors who's playing the parts, because they specifically looked at those, parts, and they looking at it as a whole compared to me overseeing so many things. But I love picking my actors' brains and seeing why they think that, they would do this or don't do this, or if they come and they have an idea about the character, I listen to what they have to say. As a director, I talk to my DP, and I tell them what I really want out of this movie and how I want it to look and feel, and then talk to them and make sure that they agree. Because if they got a better idea, I'm open to that. I don't really care who comes up with the ideal at the end of the day, because the glory is going to go to everybody anyway if the movie's done right. So I never been that insecure about trusting other people's voices and stuff like that. Ty, you call and give me all kinds of amazing. One thing I really love about you, Itai, you really push me to get things done sometimes, and I'm sitting there doing all these things. You're like, Chase, I need you to send this. Chase, I need you, and I love that, because that's tough love, man. And I love that you not just think about yourself, but you really care enough about people you care about in this industry to make sure that things happen best for them. Like, the fact that you sent me that film festival and you're like, here, you got to really hurry up, Chase, because this is almost about to close. And I'm sitting there getting all these things going. And I'm like, oh my God, and I had to pull over and hurry up and submit. But, I love that you do that. You get on me, man, and I need that. And I think everybody needs people like that in their corner. And I loved how you really, truly care about, and this, you're like an encyclopedia of everything, I'll be talking to you and it's like all this knowledge that you give to me. And I'm just like, man, I love it. Because I'll be telling you something that frustrates me. You're like, yes. So in 1942, this movie called The Great Delilah, so you give me this.
I noticed that I sound like Robert Mukes.
No, it's not Robert Mukes. It kind of reminds me of, you ever
with
seen
an
that
accent.
movie? You ever seen Collateral?
With an accent.
You ever seen Collateral?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
Tom Cruise.
You remind me of the guy that Jamie Foxx had to go and get the hard drive from, and he was like, "No, I want you to listen to me very seriously." No, Pedro.
I can't remember who that was.
Hold on.
That's someone
I'll look
you
it up.
remind me of.
He's looking it up. He's like, I gotta know.
But you don't look like him, but you sound like him, just the way you talk in there. Because, like like if you had kids, I can fit you. Look, I need you to look at me very closely. You need to brush it.
Look at me. Look at me.
You need to get in the bed. There's not going to be any milk and cookies for you tonight, okay?
Yeah. Now give me results. I want results.
Yes.
Oh God.
Lucky for my potential kids, I never had any kids. But yeah.
That would have been amazing.
Was that Xavier Bardem?
It could have been. It's been a while since I watched that, but
I haven't watched the movie in quite a while.
I think of Itai's voice.
I've only seen it once.
Yeah, I see like Itai giving like this really amazing lecture and using like he's like, no, my son, he loves Santa Claus, but who he loves even more is Santa's helper. No, Pedro. That's Itai. I can picture Itai like telling a story like that. I don't know.
Oh God, you just made me think about what if I did have kids and they didn't like the same films that I do. Oh, there'd be trouble.
Yeah. You don't know that.
None of
my
them
kids. When I watch movies and I try to get them to watch, and luckily for the most part, my both my kids, they for the most part do love a lot of the movies we watch. The problem I have with watching movies with my kids, and a lot of times when I watch a movie for the first time, I like to watch it alone because I don't like people asking me questions in the middle of a movie, which is my kids. And it drives me nuts. I feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Batman and Robin. I hate when they talk
or in Kindergarten Cop.
Yes.
Not a tumor. Oh my
It's
goodness.
not a tumor.
Maybe it's a tumor. It's not a tumor.
I love Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. My favorite one-liner that he's ever had was in Total Recall. I love the part with the hologram scene where he was walking and they all ambushed him. He's like, "Oh, you think this is the real Quaid? It is." Priceless. You cannot beat that.
Well, what was one of your favorite movies growing up as a kid?
I can answer that.
Jurassic
Park.
Oh,
Okay.
you're changing. Ooh. Usually it's Child's Play, straight off the bat. Boom.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I love Child's Play. Don't get me wrong, but Jurassic Park for me was easily the most influential film I watched. Because I was like 11 years old when Jurassic Park came out, and what I loved about it, I mean, I love reptiles. I got two reptile rooms in my basement. I love reptiles. I remember when we used to talk on the phone, Itai, you used to actually hear a lot of the birds and the nature sounds in the background.
The terrarium you've got there, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what I loved about Jurassic Park is that you have to remind yourself that you're really not really looking at dinosaurs. But I mean, you're right. I love Child's Play. It's still my favorite horror movie. The very first Child's Play cannot be beaten. I loved it. I loved the concept of dolls. I had my buddy doll that looked just like Chucky. And I remember I was 5 years old, about to get my hair cut by my uncle. And as we were waiting, he was like, "You want to watch Child's Play?" First horror movie I watched, and I was traumatized. Like watching that, I couldn't go to sleep. You know, the next movie I watched as a kid that scared the living shit out of me, and I wouldn't take a bath for anything, was A Nightmare on Elm Street. And you know that scene where Freddy literally with the claws and he got ready to bring Nancy down in the tub, or he did bring her down in the tub. That scene probably scared me even more so than any Child's Play scene because we had this old tub growing up, and we used to live in this, and it was like a really, really old, creepy tub. Didn't have no shower, it was just a tub. And it took 6 or 7 people to hold me down in the water because I was convinced Freddy was going to get me. And every time I still see my parents, and we have like family gatherings, they still bring that up.
Yeah.
As they should.
Yeah.
That's ammunition for life.
I can imagine how bad I had to stink. You know, like the fact that I was avoiding showers, and they had to call some of their relatives to come over and, you know, hold me underwater to take a bath. I mean,
only horror fans can say, "Oh, this film traumatized me. You know, it ruined my childhood. It's one of my favorites."
Yeah.
I tell you another movie that really scared me. Another movie that really scared me was Candyman, the very first Candyman. With Tony Todd.
Yeah, I get that. That's still terrifying.
You know, it was like to the point I never made eye contact when I go take a piss. But I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but fuck washing your hands.
Why would you?
Well, you know, when you wash your hands, and you look in the mirror as you washing your hands.
In the mirror, yeah.
Okay, yeah. After the fact. Okay, I get it. Yeah. I get it.
I'm like, taking a piss, you make eye contact with whom?
No. After I used the bathroom, I jet out of the bathroom, didn't wash my hands.
I can just see that. You know, Samantha, come here. Look at me while I pee. Look at me. Eye contact.
All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was part 1 of this episode
Part 2 will be coming up very, very soon. So look it up on the
Straight Shooters YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.
See you soon.